Welcome back F11 members to part 2 of the video tutorial, The Fundamentals of Post-Production, where we are taking this one image shot in Burma and piecing it together using two different conversions of the same image done in Lightroom. One on the left here for the highlight area, the top third, the sky and the bright golden spires, and the one on the right for the shadow area. So what I'm going to do is merge these exposures together using layer masks, which has the advantage of being a non-destructive editing processing. So let's talk about that as we go through it. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is take this image on the right, the bright one, and go to layer and just make a duplicate layer. Okay, and that's just an identical copy laid on top of the background layer. Any adjustments and changes we make to this top layer at the moment will not affect the layer underneath, so we can always go back to where we started without having lost or thrown away any information. Now if I go over to the darker here layer image here and select it, and now go select all, edit, cut, and then select the brighter image and go edit, paste. What I've done is paste the darker image on top of the brighter one, and if I come to the layers palette now, we have three layers: the background layer, the background copy, and the dark layer over the top. This image now I can close. We're finished with it. So what I want to do now is just selecting this top dark layer, is go to lasso and make a rough selection of the part of the image that I want, or of the dark part of the image at the top that I want to keep. Right? Now I don't have to be too precise about this. In fact, I don't need to be precise at all. But just a rough selection, and I'm going to feather that selection, and if I bring over here, actions are really useful. I'll show you about that in another video tutorial, but I have an action made feather 250, which all I have to do is play that and it feathers that selection over 250 pixels. Now if I go up here to layer and go to layer mask, and it says reveal selection. Now there immediately we have an image which is looking very promising, because what we have, if I come over here, you can see we have a layer mask. The black of the layer mask is hiding the dark bit on top to show the brighter image coming through. Now the thing is, I can then modify this layer mask. Because actually if I'm looking at this quite in detail, the spire up here is just a little bit too dark, as is some of these areas here. So what I can do is I can paint with black or white to modify this mask, which will either hide or show the brighter image behind. So if I go to the paintbrush tool here, okay, and select that. Now the first thing I'm going to do, I want to just bring a bit of darkness, lighten this area of spire here, let the brighter image behind show a bit more, and I'm going to use the paintbrush. At the moment it's too big, so if I right click there, I can actually bring the size of the brush down to, let's have a look, I reckon that is about right there. Okay, now the next thing I can do is adjust the opacity here. If I go right down here, the brush won't do very much at all, whereas if I go way up here to 100% opacity, it's very immediately obvious straight away. Now that's a bit over the top there, so I'm just going to go back using the history there to go back to where I started, readjust my opacity down to about 20% ish, and now I'm just going to stop painting away here. But if I look over here, you see these black and the white here, and this is telling me how I'm going to be painting. If I look here, I want to be painting with black, because what I want to do is actually paint some of the mask up here to reveal the brighter bit underneath. And if I just hit X on my keyboard, you'll see how over here it changes between black and white. But I want to be painting with black, so that's fine. So if I just start painting away, you can see how that area beneath of the spire is starting to come through, brightening it up. And it's quite subtle, but that's what this game is all about. We like subtlety. And of course I can go in and do this with much more accuracy by magnifying here and by adjusting my brush size down accordingly. I don't want to be too heavy-handed. It's just a light effect that will just lift this area of the picture. Okay, but this is a very, very effective way of merging exposures. And just brighten up these areas just a touch here. Come out again. If I look over here, I think these areas they're looking a little bit dull, so I can brighten them up. And as I said, I'm doing this quickly, but it can soak up a lot of time doing this stuff, of course, but what we're trying to do is really bring out the best in this picture, and you can see how effective this technique is. So here I am brushing away, and the great beauty of layer masks is, say for example, just to illustrate this, I'm going to put the opacity up, and say I go over the edge here like that by accident. Now of course I can just go back on the history tool, but what's really effective is I can just by hitting X again with I can then paint with white, and it puts the tone back from whence it came. So you can be so controlled about your painting. It's a very effective way of working this. So I'm getting there with this image. I'm painting with the wrong color here. Just need to go back to X, so I'm painting with black. And I'll carry on lightening up these spires here. And I'm only going to do this quickly because I don't want to spend all morning showing you this, but that's pretty much there. I'm pretty happy with that. You can see how I've brightened up a lot of this area here, particularly in this spire here. It's not perfect, but with a lot more time I could make it so. But you get the idea. Now looking at this picture, what I'm going to do is tweak that top layer. So now I'm finished painting with the mask, so I actually tweak the layer itself. Okay, now I'm just going to go Image, Adjustments, Curves, and I want to look at that top layer, and actually I would say it's just a bit too dark, so I'm just going to brighten it just a touch, and I'm going to put a touch of contrast in as well, and there you can see the effect as I preview that on and off. Okay, so that's that. Now I'm going to look at the background copy layer, and again if I go Image, Adjustments, Curves, what I'm going to do here is actually if I click this box here, Show Clipping, now if I move the white point in, it'll show here where I'm clipping. Thing is, I'm not really worried about clipping there because that bit of the background layer is hidden by this layer here over the top of it. So I can go a fair way before any of that clipping starts incurring on the black bit, which is where the background copy shows. So if I click that off and just go to preview, you can see it's brightened that area up, and it's also just lifted it and given a little better contrast as well. Okay, so I'm quite happy with that. And now I need to just step back and look at this picture and say, well, you know, am I happy with it? And it's pretty close to where we want to be. If I just essentially fine-tune the picture now, so sticking with this background copy, I'm going to use the halo tool, and I think the paving, which is so fundamental to the picture, is just a little bit flat. So I don't really want to affect Our Lady here, the nun. I'm just going to select an area of the paving, and again using my actions here, feather 150 this time, and I just play that action. That's softened the edge across that feather there. Now if I go again, image adjustments, curves, and I can adjust the white, blacken the white point just of that area there. You see, if I go too far, you see those red bits coming in there. And if I click that on and off, you can see it's really given the whole thing just a bit more contrast. I can actually go just tweak the curve a touch here, and you can see what adjustments like this can really have quite an effect on the image. Go too far, of course, it looks horrible, it looks overcooked. But when I shot this picture, you know, I knew that what I was trying to do was to capture all the information, and it would take a bit of post-production to really bring that out, to really bring out the best in the picture. And at this point, I would have to say I'm pretty much finished. So I go select, deselect. If I'm totally happy with that picture, I can now go layer, flatten the image, and go to image adjustments and make it, go mode adjustments, make it an 8-bit picture, and there we are. Et voila, the picture is finished. And really, if I go back to where we started in Lightroom, and there's the image, and if I go develop there, that's where we started. And you think that's really quite radical, isn't it? So I hope that's been useful. This concept of layer masks is really useful, and I would experiment with this and play this tutorial several times over to get the hang of what I've been trying to explain. And fear not, we will adjust, we will come back to this technique in many video tutorials over the next few months. So keep exposing. Thank you.